Hi friends, we're up to video number 6 in our series, Jesus the I Am. We're looking at the 7 statements of Jesus, I am this, I am that. And Jesus makes this statement in the Gospel of John. He says, I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. Here Jesus uses another illustration of himself as a shepherd for sheep. And Jesus here is saying, I'm the one that cares and watches over you. I'm the one that watches over you by day and watches over you by night. He's drawing attention to the fact that he's not just a shepherd, but he's one that cares, and his intentions and his motives are good. You know, for a sheep in the wilderness, there were predators all around. And Jesus is saying here, I'm the shepherd that protects the sheep from the predators. Not only does a sheep need protection from predators, but a sheep also needs a guide. And the shepherd was all the time the guide for the sheep. The sheep would, of course, sheep are known to just wander off and just wander here and there, but the shepherd is the one that actually guides. And so Jesus is saying, I have good motives, I have good intents, and I'm going to guide you in life. If you want it, if you desire it, I'm going to guide you in life. I'm going to lead you in life. And guess what he says? My motives, my desires, my purposes for your life, they're good. They're always for your benefit. They're always for your the fulfillment of your life. They're always in your best interest. It doesn't mean you won't have any pain. It doesn't mean you won't have any difficulty or even suffer from time to time. But knowing that the shepherd of our lives, which can be Jesus, always has good motives, always has good intents. What an encouraging idea that is. What an encouraging thought to know that we can have a shepherd that always has good intent and good motives in his leading and guiding of us. You know, with this illustration of the shepherd and the sheep, Jesus is saying, hey, the sheep will come and go from the pen. They'll come and go from the sheepfold, and Jesus will lead them out. But here Jesus is saying that I'll actually lead them out by name. He actually says, I'll call the sheep by name. This is a really interesting idea because in that present day, shepherds would lead sheep in and out oftentimes with a distinctive call or whistle. They would actually call the sheep to himself. The shepherd would call the sheep to himself with a distinctive call or whistle even. But Jesus in this oration that he gives about himself says, I know my sheep and I call them by name. That's an amazing idea because he's not just saying, I don't just whistle generally, I actually call you by name. This is profound because Jesus is saying, I know you. I give you a specific identity. You have a specific, unique place in my heart, he's saying, in my thoughts. When he says, I call you by name, he's saying, you as an individual have a unique personality, unique characteristics, unique makeup, unique talents, and I know you by name, and I call you by name. I don't just call you in the midst of a crowd. You know, oftentimes I'll say to someone, hey, sir or ma'am, do you know that Jesus loves you? And people will say, yeah, Jesus loves everyone. But then I like to look them in the eye and say, yeah, but Jesus loves you. Jesus knows you. You see, that takes it to a different level. That's totally different. You know, when we can be assured that Jesus knows everything about us. And when he calls us, he doesn't just call us among some group or among some batch. He calls us uniquely and specifically by name. He knows everything about us. You know, he says, I know my sheep. He knows more about you than you know about yourself. He knows more about who you are, what you're like, what your desires are, what your dreams are, what your aspirations are. He knows more about that than you even know about yourself. You see, I was always in a place of thinking that I would be certain that when I came to name my children, that I would know for sure what I would name them, that I would be confident, that when I came to name my own children, I would know for certain, I would know with great confidence, I know what I'm going to call my children. You know, my wife and I, we just had twins just a few weeks ago. My wife just gave birth to a little boy and a little girl. two beautiful twins. It was an amazing experience. But the name giving process for them, my goodness, that was a challenging process. I didn't think it was going to be so difficult. I thought we would know for sure, we would have certainty and we would be convicted and just know what we were going to call our twins. But it was a difficult process. And I'm going to be honest with you, honestly, it wasn't until about 2 days after the birth that we fully decided, no, this is what we're going to call our children. It was even after the birth. It wasn't until then that we were certain what we were going to call our children. And I'm glad we now have two beautiful names, Noah and Amelia, for our two kids. And they're doing great. But you know what's interesting is that there's no doubt or double-mindedness in God. When God says, I know you by name and I know you, there's no wavering, there's no doubt, there's no double-mindedness. He says, I know you. I know exactly who you are. I fashioned you. I designed you. I know exactly who you are, and I call you by name. You know, this is rare to find that you would have a shepherd that actually would say, I not only know you and I call you by name, but it was even more rare to have a sheep that would say, I'll actually willingly lay down my life for you. And that's actually what Jesus says in this oration, is he says, not only do I know you, but I'm actually willing to lay down my life for you. You see, Jesus' audience would have had leaders and been familiar with leaders in and outside of religious settings that were there to exploit and to take from the people. This idea that a leader would stand up and say, not only do I know you, but I'm actually going to even lay down my life for you, that was truly rare. And that's what Jesus says in this moment. I know you and I'm willing to even lay down my life for you. And guess what, guys? He ended up doing that on the cross. He said, no one takes my life from me, but I freely give it. And when Jesus went to the cross, he freely gave up his life. He freely gave himself for our sakes, to bring us to himself, to deal with the problems of our mistakes and our sin, to bring us to himself, if we believe, for eternity, forevermore. He was the one that died for us on the cross, but then rose from the grave. There's a good shepherd that you can have as a guide and a protector in your life. He's laid down his life for you. I want to encourage you, if you've not fully given your life to him, to come to him, give your life entirely to him. He knows you, loves you, and wants to bring you to himself. God bless you today.